Before we discuss today's shloka, just reflect upon what Lord Krishna has told in the 18th chapter. Anyone who gives this knowledge to my devotees, he is the most dear servant of me, and there has been no servant who will be more dear to me than this servant. So in this world, we study a lot of books, is it not? Thinking that this knowledge will help us, thinking this knowledge will give us some gain. But what greater gain can we have if the unlimited Lord is saying this is the highest service? The unlimited Lord, who is creating the billions and zillions of universes without anyone's help, he is saying that servant is the greatest who speaks this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to others. I'm not saying I am the greatest. I'm saying the whole process is to make all of us great in the eyes of unlimited. In the eyes of unlimited. What we are in the eyes of the Prime Minister? Nothing, is it not? We won't care anything about us, but he is not unlimited. What does the demigods care for the Prime Minister of India or America or anything for that matter? But the Supreme Lord, unlimited Lord, whose breath, simply by his breath, billions of universes are created and annihilated. He is saying this is the highest service. So we must be very eager to learn this science so that we can explain to the devotees. Devotees here means those who have faith, this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. And why it is important? Because the living entity, being a dear child of the Lord, cannot come out of this world unless he receives Sambandh Gyan, or is of his knowledge of his relationship with Krishna. So those things we're going to hear all throughout Bhagavad Gita, and there is the highest service, not only highest service, unlimited service of the unlimited. Because the benefit which a person gets by giving the knowledge and the person who will receive the knowledge is also unlimited, that is going back home, back to Godhead. So we have to be very careful. Certain difficult things will come. I'm also saying this because today's shloka will have maybe some difficult things, but we must try to understand. And if we don't understand, we again ask so that we can render this a service to the Supreme Lord properly. Okay. So now we'll chant to this shloka. Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, shloka 16. Nasato vidyate bhavo.
Nasate vidyate bhavo.
It is not nasate, it is nasato. Nasato vidyate bhavo.
Nasate to vidyate bhavo.
Na bhavo vidyate satah.
Na bhavo vidyate satah.
Ubhayorapi drishtontas.
Ubhayorapi drishtontas.
Tvanyostatvadarshibhihi.
Tvanyostatvadarshibhihi.
Nasato vidyate bhavo. Na bhavo vidyate satah.
Nasato vidyate bhavo. Na bhavo vidyate satah.
Ubhayorapi drishtontas tvanyostatvadarshibhihi.
Ubhayorapi drishtontas tvanyostatvadarshibhihi.
Nasato vidyate bhavo. Na bhavo vidyate satah.
Nasato vidyate bhavo. Na bhavo vidyate satah.
Ubhayorapi drishtontas tvanyostatvadarshibhihi.
Ubhayorapi drishtontas tvanyostatvadarshibhihi.
Okay, let us read the synonyms. Na, never. Asatah, of the non-existent. Vidyate, there is. Bhavaha, endurance. So na asatah vidyate bhava, that means that something which is non-existent, which it doesn't have endurance, that is, doesn't last for long. Na, never. Abhava, changing quality. Vidyate, there is. Satah, of the eternal. So na abhava vidyate satah means that there is no transformation in that which is eternal, which is soul. The body is constantly changing, and there is no time when the body is not changing. But in the soul, which is eternal, there is no change. This is the point. A small reflection. Time changes everything, but time never changes. Obviously, time cannot change the soul also, but think about it. Time changes everything material, but time does not change itself. Anyhow, Ubhayo
Ubhayo
of the two,
of the two.
Api verily, Drishtaha observed.
Observed.
So Ubhayor api Drishtantah Antah means conclusion. It's like Siddhanta, Drishtanta. So seeing them, Ubhayo means seeing the temporary and seeing the eternal. The Drishtah Anta, that means the Siddhanta, the conclusion has been drawn after seeing both of them, that the body is always changing and the soul is never changing. This is very simple. To indeed Anyoho of them Tattvadarshibhi by the seers. So what is the meaning of the shloka? Nasato vidyate bhavo, of the temporary there is no endurance. It doesn't stays. Our body is still changing. Yes, our hairs are growing, our nails are growing, all those things. Something is happening in our stomach. Constantly our body is changing. Na abhavo vidyate satah. Satah refers to the soul, which is eternal. It never undergoes any change. It remains constant. This is, we have heard before also. Ubhayor api dushtontas tvanayos tattvadarshibhi. Seeing the nature of both of them. That means studying the nature of body and soul in the light of Shastra, those who know Tattva, those who can know the truth. This has been ascertained or concluded by those who know the knowledge or who know the proper understanding from Shastra. This is called Tattvadarshibhi. Those who are seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existence, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, the soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. And you must remember, studying means studying in the light of Shastra, Guru and Sadhu. Gita Bhushan commentary. In this way, the Lord has criticized Arjuna's stance of being learned because of his inappropriate lamentation. What was the shloka? Pragya avach ashochatvam pragyavadansh bhasase gatasu na agatasu nanu shochanti panditah. You are speaking like a learned person, but actually a person who is learned, who is tattvadarshi, he does not lament for something which is not to be lamented. That means the body. And not only the body, but things which are related to the body also are not to be lamented. Now, worship of the Lord is alone. Now he is giving us, Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan is giving the link. Why Lord is speaking this knowledge? Now, worship of the Lord is alone the means of destroying lamentation. And this arises from recognizing the difference between the worshipper Jiva and the object of worship, the Lord. Thus, the Lord has taught the real, not illusory dualism of the Jivas or Anshas, dependents, the worshippers, from himself, the Anshi, the shelter of the dependents, the object worthy of worship in verse 12. Did I miss something? No. Yes. So in verse 12 it was Nate Vaham Jat. What is that? Did I make some mistake? We are on shloka 16. And 14 and 15 was not that Pandita. What was that? 14, 15 we discussed. Dehino asmin itha dehe, and then matra sparshastu kanti. See, I made a mistake. So the Lord has condemned the lamentation of Arjuna by saying those who are dhira, they will not lament for the change of body. And that was in 2.13. And in 14 he says a person who must tolerate this happiness and distress. Matra sparshastu kaunteya, shitoshna sukha dukkada. And in 15th he has said that yam hi na vithantite ete purusham purushashvat. A person who can tolerate these dualities is qualified for liberation. So by saying this, he is indirectly condemning that a person who laments and does not execute his duty, he is not fit for liberation. That is understanding. I'm sorry I made a mistake. I was thinking about the chastisement of the Lord in the earlier shlokas of 2nd chapter. So now what important point is mentioned here, that in text number 12, Natve Vaham Jatu Nasam, was that the shloka? Na, yes. Natvam Natve Vaham Jatu Nasam, Natvam Neme Janadipaha, Na Cheva Na Bhavishyama, Sarve Bhavatam. I'm just getting confused now. Let me just see the shloka exactly. What is I should have put it here, then it would have been more clear. Let me just see the shloka. Because the distinguishing nature of the souls were mentioned in that shloka, so I'm just getting confused. 1 second. 2.12. Yes, it was the same shloka. Natve Vaham Jatu Nasam. So the Lord has explained in verse 12 that there was no time when you had not existed, I have not existed, and all these kings have not existed. By saying that, he has explained the point that the living entity is distinct from the Lord, and the Lord is always the controller of the living entities. Unless this difference is recognized, there is no point that the jiva or the living entity can worship Krishna. If the living entity itself is the Supreme Lord, there is no question of the living entity serving Krishna. Does it make sense? Also, if the living entity is thinking that I will become God, that also is not real worship, that is cheating worship. It's like somebody, just like we have seen in the Indian history, some Muslim king will be there, and some person will very faithfully serve him just to kill him and become the king himself. Have you not studied in history? This has happened so many times. Like Aurangzeb killed his father and then whatever, put in prison like that. So Lord is not that kind of father who can be overthrown by this living entity sons. We cannot never overthrow Krishna. I must tell you this, my dear devotees, it is not possible to overthrow Krishna. This is an important point. One time Maharaj was explaining in Russia, they had some discussion. God has remained God for a very long time. Now he must step down. But they had difficulty in finding God, where he lives, that we should tell him that now he should step down, somebody else will become God. No, God is eternally God, Krishna is eternally God. So now the point which is being mentioned here is that the living entity is distinct from the Lord and will remain eternally distinct even in its liberated stage. That was explained in text number 12. That this establishes the Lord as worshipable and establishes jiva as worshipper. And why this has been established? Because only by serving or worshipping the Lord that the lamentation of living entity will get destroyed. There are many points to be learned from this point. Why the living entity is lamenting? Because it is identifying with the body. It is not the body. But then the question will be why it is identifying with the body? Because of Maya. But then why Maya is acting? Because the living entity has a revolting nature towards Krishna. And why it is there? Because the living entity has a spiritual freedom to do so. But because the living entity wants to enjoy, that's why Lord himself employ his Maya Shakti, which cannot otherwise and other circumstances affect Jiva. So the Lord himself employs it. So only when the Lord is pleased by the worship or natural surrender of the living entity will he remove this veil of material energy. Are you able to understand all this philosophy, my dear devotees? In spite of tiring chanting since morning, surviving the morning bath. I'm just mentioning again and again because one devotee has been told, if you take up early bath, then you will die. But it doesn't happen. You see, my dear devotee, you can see other devotees have already survived and they are taking bath every day. Yes. So don't feel afraid. You will not die if you take bath early in the morning. You can consult your brother. Your brother knows. You can consult your brother. Okay. Now, so this is very clearly understood why Lord is saying Natve Vaham Jatu Nasam. There was no time when Lord is not there and we are not there. All of us are there. And by worshipping of the Lord, this Maya becomes vanquished from our consciousness. Now there are statements like the following. Yadatma tatve natu brahma tattvam dipopamene hayuktaha prapashet. Ajam dhruvam sarva tattver vishuddham gyatva devam uchyate sarva pashay. When the yogi, after knowing about the unborn, unchanging pure Lord with all his ornaments, realizes that Supreme Brahman through the realization of the Atma, which is like a lamp, he attains liberation from all bondage. Such statements show that the person who has knowledge about the Swarupa of conscious Ansha, the Jiva, is qualified for knowledge of the Swarupa of the conscious Anshi, the Supreme Lord. Because I will read it full and then I'll explain. Because of such statements, first knowledge of the Jiva is taught uniformly to all the Sanishta devotees. So now this is very important point. That we cannot talk to people directly about Krishna. In a normal preaching circumstances, we have to talk about Atma first. It's a very secular topic, so to speak, if you want to talk about secular topics. Atma or soul is a very secular topic. Srila Prabhupada gives an example. If you want to study the ocean, you have to first study a drop of the ocean. From there, you get an understanding how all the ocean water feels like. If you don't understand this, then another example can be given. Suppose you want to taste a big amount of food, how the whole halwa has been made. So only a portion of halwa is given and you understand the way this portion of halwa is, the same way the whole portion of halwa is said. Similarly, if you want to study sun, first we have to study sunlight. The rays of the sun, is it not? We cannot directly jump to sun. Similarly, we first understand who we are and then we can understand who Krishna is. If I'm just thinking I'm Hindu and Muslim and all that, then I'm not even beginning to understand Bhagavad Gita. Because if I don't understand myself, which I'm a sample God. I'm a sample God means I'm part and parcel of God. If I can't understand myself, then I cannot also understand Krishna. That's why the Lord is giving the knowledge of Atma to all the Sanishta devotees. Now, why he's using the word Sanishta? Sanishta means they have faith in Varnashram, but they execute Varnashram in a detached manner, not for fruitive mentality, so that the knowledge of Atma becomes revealed in their heart. I'll repeat this point. A Sanishta devotee will execute Varnashram, karma yoga you can say. They will execute karma as per Varnashram, but in a detached way. The yajna, just for example, they will do Agnistrom yajna. So they will do the yajna, but not for going to Swarga, which can be a benefit, which is a benefit of Agnistrom yajna, but they are not desiring that benefit. They will just do those activities for the purification of their heart. So, but the point is, why at all they will think about doing these activities for purification of heart? Why a person will at all do his activities without a fruitive mentality unless he knows that he's Atma? No. Try to understand this point. My question is, unless a person does not know that he is soul and not the body, why will he give up fruitive activities? He will not give up. If I'm thinking that I'm this body, I'll definitely only do fruitive activity. नहीं समझ में आ रहा है? जब हम यही सोच रहे हैं कि शरीर है तो फिर तो भौतिक भोग ही में लगेंगे ना. फिर हम क्यों? Why will we endeavor? If I'm thinking I'm this body, why will I go for any kind of self-realization practices? I will not go for self-realization practice. We cannot work selflessly. Does that make sense? We are chanting Hare Krishna and doing all those things because we know we are in ignorance. We think that we are this body. No. If when we know, then we can act selflessly. So the point is that when a person knows that I am not this body, I am soul, then only he will take to some spiritual practice which promises that how he can realize his soul. Otherwise, what is the point? I am the body, and then from body I must enjoy my senses. That is a natural conclusion. So that's why Lord is first giving this knowledge. You are not the body, you are different from the body. That's the link which has been mentioned here. With this and the following verses, that means this shloka and the coming ones, the Lord thus begins the teaching of Atma by giving an understanding of the difference between body and Atma, since such understanding should not come in the middle of the work. You understand this point? Very beautiful point. Lord explains the difference between living entity and the jiva, sorry, living entity and the Lord, so that the living entity knows I should worship Krishna. Now, in this section, the Lord is telling the difference between body and the soul, so that there is no confusion in the coming chapters. For example, I am speaking English. So now I'm assuming everybody has studied A, B, C, D. It's not that when I start giving class in English, then I say, Prabhuji, what is A? What is B? Or I'm teaching calculus and mathematics, and this what is 1? What is 2? So this is the A, B, C, D of, I'm also teaching A, B, C, D in Kids Zone. This A, B, C, D of spiritual knowledge. If I am grounded in the reality that I am an Indian, I am an American or Chinese or anything, then I have not even learned the A, B, C, D of spirituality. I cannot say that I am a spiritual person. Nothing doing. If I don't even stop identifying with the body, even at least theoretically. That's why the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita is for everybody, whether they're Chinese or Americans or Thailand or anybody, because they are not the bodies. Does it make sense? Yes. So when I will discuss, when the Lord has to discuss further topics about bhakti or anything, but first of all, he has to explain who I am. I am soul. So that has to be understood. That's why Lord is explaining very nicely. An object which is समझ रहे ना, middle of work वाली बात समझ में आ रही है. In the middle of Bhagavad Gita, nobody should raise the question, Prabhuji, my Lord, yes, who am I? That question should not be there. So that is answered in the beginning only. Just like when we preach, we try to establish why should we accept Shastra. In Bhakti we should do like that. So we ask, do you have any questions? That means, do you have any doubts whether Shastra is correct or not? Now, that is a very good proposition and very good preaching strategy, because once a person has accepted, at least theoretically, that Shastra is good and I must accept it, later on he cannot challenge that, oh, I don't accept Bhagavad Gita. Why did you not raise the challenge in chapter number 3 only? So this question should not come in the future. So it is explained beforehand only. Same way, Jiva Goswami, when he starts his Tattva Sandarbha, he establishes that logic is not the way to know Krishna. Only way we can know Krishna is through Shabda Pramana. Does it make sense? So this question should not come later on, that why should I accept Bhagavad Gita. Make sense to you? Okay. Similarly, the Lord is explaining about the nature of Atma. All these things will come in Prabhupada's commentary. I'll show you. Do not think we are talking out of context. An object which is subject to change, such as the body, asatah, does not have unchangeable nature, bhava. Na sato vidyate bhava. Very nicely explained. Asatah means which is constantly subject to change. So that is very, very easy to understand. Our body has been constantly transforming since the time we took birth in this body. And at no point of time will it have an unchangeable nature. What does it mean? It seems to be that you are saying the same thing in a different way. You are saying the body is constantly changing. And then you are saying abhava. What do you want to say? By saying that the body is constantly changing, and in the future it will also be constantly changing, it will never acquire an unchangeable nature, the Lord is saying it is impossible to maintain status quo. Status quo, you understand? You don't understand? English also poor. Status quo means जैसी स्थिति है वैसा ही बना के रखना. Status quo. You don't study politics. Yeah, good boys, good girls, don't study politics. Status quo means that's like line of demarcation of India and Pakistan. Maintain the status quo. Keep the line as it is here. Don't change the line. Now you understand? So, similarly, the point we mentioned here is beautiful, very clear explanation. Every word in Sanskrit can have so many meanings, but here in the context means asatah. The body is constantly subject to change, constantly changing, and it will never have an unchangeable eternal nature. So, one should never think like Hiranyakashipu that I can become eternal or I am eternal, but my body can become eternal. It just doesn't work. But, my dear devotees, this is what works in this world. Everybody is thinking that I am not going to die, my body is eternal. That's why this knowledge has to be given to dissipate this ignorance. My dear Prabhus and Matajis, the body is always going to change, is never going to become eternal. Do not lament for anyone in that sense. Everyone whom we are attached to is going to change their bodies because they are changing their bodies. The body is changing. Ultimately, at the time of death, also they will change the body. Does it make sense?
Or body will also change.
Not also change, it is changing, and it will never acquire, this material body will never acquire the quality of eternality. शाश्वत होने का गुण कभी प्राप्त नहीं कर सकता ये भौतिक शरीर.
Yes.
Now you understand? Beautiful explanation. Now, the unchanging Atma, Satah, does not have the nature of changing. Now you understand? Because Atma is Satah, it does not have changing. So at no point of time in the future that the living entity can change or get finished or vanquished. Does it make sense to you?
Yes.
Then also we should not lament. If some of your father has died, like Ruth Prabhu's father has died he died? No, he has just changed his posting. My father also left his body. So now, father used to be posted differently in different times during the year. He was an irrigation engineer. So I was not thinking my father is dying. Suppose he's posted in Allahabad. From there, his Allahabad is posted to Pilibhit, for example. So he's dying because he has left Allahabad. My dear devotees, what is the answer? Prabhuji, what are you talking? I don't understand. Just like my father left the body. So my uncle informed, my Mamaji informed me. So whatever, Prabhuji, whatever he name he used to address my father, that he has died. So his daughter was hearing my conversation with his father. I said, no, he has not died. He just left the body. So then she said, I cannot understand your talks. My uncle immediately understood because he was a devotee. Nobody dies. Like your sister has died, is it not? Shama Murari Prabhu died, na? Died? Nobody dies. This is an amazing illusion. Why are you crying? She maybe like she was in some situation, city, and now she moved to another city. I have left her body. Just like we say, I have left my home, I have left my place, like that. Nobody dies, my dear devotees. There is no point of crying. Okay? Yes. But not only death, anything we have in our possession is also changeable. Like one devotee want to purchase a laptop because the laptop is not in the same situation as it was 10 years back. It is constantly changing. It is constantly degrading. Then we just buy a new laptop. Is it not? Like this. Similarly, we have a new body. We'll get a new body. Don't worry. Every time we get a body. Another example is given in Bhagavatam. Beautiful example given by Vasudevji. Just like a caterpillar. I should have shown a photo. Very nice. Just like a caterpillar, before going to another, before leaving the first leaf, he just catches to another leaf. Now you understand the point? Example समझ में आ रहा है? A caterpillar, green caterpillar, which is moving around in the trees, before it leaves this leaf, it holds on, catches on to another leaf. So before we leave this body, the other body is already destined. समझ में आ रहा है? Caterpillar समझते हैं ना? ठीक है. Another example is given by Vasudev ji. Very nice. Vasudev, not Vasudev, Vasudev. Before you lift your previous step, you put your feet down on the next step. Are you able to understand this point?
Yes.
Before we give up this body, the next body is already ascertained as per our actions in this world. से पहले पीछे वाला पांव उठाने से पहले अगला वाला पांव रख देते हैं तो शरीर तो मिलेगा ही. Lamentation is not for leaving the body. Lamentation is on how, what he did when he lived in the body. Make sense? If he did not execute Krishna consciousness, that is the cause of lamentation. Not whether he left the body or not left the body. Anyhow, he is leaving the body. Think about it. As like I always say, people are so much worried, so many people are dying by corona. And they are ready to spend so much money. But they are not worried what these people who are not dying by corona are doing. नहीं समझ रहे हैं? People are dying by corona, so they are very much worried. But they are not worried what these people who are not dying, who are living, what they are doing. Doing something which will only take them to hell. Not spending the money to give them education so that they can be delivered from this bondage. It's amazing how the society is, especially now. The body has the nature of changing and the soul has the nature of not changing. This conclusion or antaha about the body, designated by the word asat or temporary, and soul designated by the word sat or permanent, is realized drishtaha by those men who know the nature of these two, tattvadarshibhi. So you understand this paragraph? The word sat is referring to, designation means what it refers to. So like webcam is a word which is referring to a particular object which is in front of me. This is called a designation of this machine called webcam. This is called mic. So this is the designation of this object is called is mic. So similarly, the soul is referred to as sat, and the material body is called asat, and their natures have been described or realized by the soul, by those who are tattvadarshibhi. That means who know Shastra, who know the truth. Before I go further, I wanted to share it during the japa session, but then anyways, our life in this world is a horror movie. Horror movie? Yes. Birth, old age, disease, death, adhyatmik, adi bhautik, adi devik. And my dear devotees, is it not that we are impelled by fear to do so many things in this world? If you don't do this, what will happen? If I don't do this, what will happen? So it's a horror movie. Impelled by fear, we are doing so many things. But our life in Goloka is romantic movie, where everybody is in love with Krishna. Nobody is doing anything out of fear. No, there is no death, there is no birth, nothing is there. Please, my dear devotees, understand, when you go to Goloka, you don't have to take birth from the womb of a mother. You know this point? It's not that you have to at least one time suffer a misery. Nothing like that. As I have explained also, like Ajamil just left the body here and went back to Vaikuntha. Is it not? So do not think that we'll go back to Vaikuntha or Goloka in this body. This useless, miserable body. Like this. Just imagine, we are so attached to this body. How much will be attached to the spiritual body? Will we ever like to give up? No. Never will like to come back. Sometime one day asked my Guru Maharaj, why we came to this material world. Maharaj says, causeless foolishness. There is no explanation why you came here. Such a rascal, number one. Why we have to come here? But anyhow, causeless foolishness. This is just to see the horror movie. Destructible, unconscious things such as the body are called asat, and the indestructible soul with consciousness is called sat. The same conclusion is seen in the Vishnu Purana. So this is very easy to understand. Sat is soul, asat is matter or body. Jyotimshi Vishnur Bhuvanani Vishnur Vanani Vishnur Girayodishascha Nadhya Samudrascha nadyah samudrascha sa eva sarvam yadasti yan nasti chavipravarya. So he is giving quotation from Vishnu Puran. The way he is understanding this shloka, that Sat is referring to soul and Asat is referring to material body, is not his own assumption, that is based on Shastra. You see how the Acharya is explaining it. So he's explaining like this. Vishnu is the planets. That means planet is the energy of Vishnu. Vishnu is the worlds. Vishnu is the forest, mountains and direction. Nothing is separate from Vishnu, so to speak. He is the rivers and ocean. He alone is everything which is conscious. Yadasti and unconscious. Yan nasti, O best of the Vipras. So you understand the point? Conscious means living entities. So asti, by saying asti, it is referring to the living entities, and nasti means, nasti here does not mean it doesn't exist. Nasti here means unconscious. So the Lord is both unconscious as well as conscious living entities, because both are energies of the Lord. So from there we derive the word or understanding that Sat is referring to soul and Asat is referring to the matter or material body. Okay. The word Nasti does not exist refers to dull matter. And the word asti, exist, refers to the conscious entity. Why? Because the matter is constantly changing and the living entity is never changing, is eternal. Interesting point. Something I asked a question from mathematics. Mathematics? I have not studied mathematics. I am from arts. No, very simple. If x is greater than 0 and less than 0, what is the value of x? No, it's too difficult. Bhagavad Gita was easy. Mathematics is too difficult. One second, let me allow the devotees to answer this. Participants. Yes, one person can answer this if he knows the answer. If x is greater than 0 and less than 0, what is the value of x? Minus 1. Minus 1 is greater than 0. So you see, you can't understand Bhagavad Gita, you can't understand mathematics also. What you can understand? Prabhuji, I understand 9 o'clock I must receive prasadam. I understand that. That was more than that I don't understand. Simple. It's called sandwich theorem. If x is greater than 0 and if x is less than 0, it means x is 0. So the idea is, it's called sandwich theorem. So something which was not existing previously. Our bodies were not existing previously. After destruction, our body will not exist. From 0 to 0. So in between also it is 0. So philosophical understanding is that anything which is not existing eternally doesn't have satta, does not have existence. Although it may appear to be existing now, it is, yes, it is there. But ultimately the body which is now we are seeing as a combination of earth, water, fire, air, ether is not an eternal combination. I'll take the question later on. Hold on to the class. If you want to ask the question and hear the answer, you will have to be to the end of the class. Okay. So the whole idea is the material body is not existing and the spirit soul is always existing. I may take some more time till 9:15 if you are hungry. If your asataha body is giving you too much trouble to your satah soul, then you can take off. Otherwise, we'll continue to finish this shloka. This is described in a later verse of the same Purana. Vastavasti kim kutrachid adi madhya paryanta hinam sat shatataika rupam. Is there any object anywhere which has no beginning, middle or end and remains continually in one form? So this refers to the Atma. Atma has beginning? No. In the middle also, you cannot say in the middle it is has begun to exist. No. And it's not that Atma will have end. So that is the quality of Atma. And if we can understand ourselves, we can also understand Krishna also is eternal. Does it make sense to you? If we can understand our eternality, then we can understand Krishna's eternality. If we can understand our individuality, that I am a person, then we can also understand Krishna's is a person. If I can understand I am blissful, I am constantly seeking happiness, then also we get some idea how Krishna is blissful. Okay, something. Okay. Thus, Nasti means dull matter and Asti means a conscious entity by explanation in the verse of the Vishnu Puran itself. So he's giving that quotation. The whole idea of this quotation is Asti means soul, Nasti means matter. Satah means soul, Asatah means matter. Like that. Now, some people have some different explanation of this Sat and Asat of this shloka. So that is refuted by the Acharya here. Some say that the Lord speaks this verse in order to establish Sat Karyavad, the idea of Sankhya philosophers that the effect is inherent in the cause, but this is not the intention, since the verse merely serves to establish the true nature of body and soul for a person bewildered by lack of ascertainment of the nature of body and soul by eradicating the confusion concerning them. So what does this paragraph mean? There are some people who, let me just first read the Satkaryavad and then I'll explain. Note, Satkaryavad maintains that the effect is inherent in the cause, says something which is real or effect cannot arise from what is non-existent. By this, it is concluded that Prakriti alone is the cause of the evolution and destruction of the universe without the necessity of God. There is a similarity with the statement of this verse. There is no creation, no bhava of the non-existent or asat. But the meaning of the verse by context is there is no permanence of the body or no bhava of the body asat. Oh, Papa, it is too difficult things, Roji. What you are speaking? You see, very simple. It's very simple. Some people, now here you are seeing at the time of Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, there were some people who will differently explain this shloka. Sat asat refers to cause and effect. Cause and effect, you understand? No, Prabhuji, I'm too tired now. It's almost 5 minutes to 9. Now I don't understand anything. I can only understand my chapatis are waiting for me, my kitchen is waiting for me and all those things. I just cannot understand anything. No problem. I can't hear your cries. You have all been muted. So even if you cry, I can't hear you. So I'll explain this. Sometimes I must torture the devotees, is it not? I should not always please the devotees. I must give some trouble to them. Trouble to their intelligence. So what I want to say, what does Acharya want to say? From this you can very clearly see that there are people who give some strange interpretation of Bhagavad Gita shloka. If you accept this shloka of cause and effect, it has nothing to do with the flow of the topic which is coming here. Just out of context they are saying something. So they are saying, the Satkaryavad says, the cause is in the effect. The cause is in the effect, and the effect is in the cause. Very simple. My body is an effect. So in my body, water, fire, air, ether is there or not? Is there. So they say their concept is this world is real. That means eternal. Now, since the cause must also be there in the effect, which is true. So because this world is eternal, that's why the cause is also eternal. So there was no srishti, there was no creation. समझ में आ रहा है आपको? You know that creation was there. So they say there is no need of the Lord, there is no need for a creator, because this world is eternal, because this world is real. जो आपको दिख रहा है आपको, effect is real. So the cause of this world is also real and eternal. So there is no need of the Lord. See how these people are atheistic? But it has nothing to do with the shloka which is being spoken here. You understand? Simple understanding is Satah means soul, Asatah means body. So that's why when a person gives this strange interpretation, it becomes difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita. But if we understand in the line of acharyas, very simple to understand, is it not? Yes. So do not, my dear devotees, read any other book except Prabhupada books. They're in Parampara. So why are you reading Gita Bhushan? Well, because Srila Prabhupada's book is following that. So we'll understand why Srila Prabhupada is saying this. Whole idea is we should read acharyas only. Nothing else. Our acharyas, not any acharya. Okay. Purport. Now it will be very easy for you to understand. There is no endurance of the changing body. Okay? Body will not endure. It will get finished. Okay, before I go further, I give a small example. Have any of you played a video game called Mario in your childhood? Yes. Oh, all of you. Oh, naughty boys. So now you have seen in the Mario game, there is a stage where you have a small stool. Stool means like platform which will not be there for long time. But stepping on it, you have to jump to another platform, which also will not be there for a long time. And stepping on it, you have to jump to another platform. You understand this? Very nice example. Similarly, we must understand that this body will not last long. But using why we are in this body, we have to jump to a higher level of consciousness by the practice of Krishna consciousness till the time we have no material desires and we get a spiritual body. Then only the game will be over, my dear devotees. Before that, no game over, okay? That the body is changing every moment by the actions and reactions of the different cells is admitted by modern medical science. Very easy to understand. Even now, something must be happening in your stomach, is it not? You feel the stomach is too empty? Yeah, 9 o'clock. I am seeing my consciousness is programmed, exactly 9 o'clock, I'll feel so hungry. Very difficult. So that's why I'll finish the class by 9 o'clock. And thus growth and old age are taking place in the body. So this is very easy to understand. Different physiological things are happening, our body is changing. But the spirit soul exists permanently, remaining the same despite all changes of the body and the mind. Beautiful point, my dear devotees. It's easy to disidentify ourselves with the changes of the body. Are you able to understand my language? Like when we wake up in the morning, our body is dirty. So, in normal parlance, we say, I am dirty. But actually, we can easily disidentify ourselves. My body is dirty. Make sense? And we take bath. Can we also learn to disidentify with our minds? It's better that we do it as soon as possible, although it is difficult. Does it make sense? And mind is dirty, I am pure. Krishna loves me eternally. Then you will never be depressed. Krishna loves me no matter what my mind and body is. Does it make sense? Just like the mothers naturally love the child no matter what is the condition of the child. Is it not? Pinky Mataji, do you love your children even if they are also dirty? Yes. Miren Prabhu, when you are not taking bath, still your mother loves you. Suppose you don't take bath. No, I'm not giving you instruction. Still your mother will give you breakfast. Yes or no? This is a very deep statement to be understood. We must not identify with our mind. We are not obliged to hear and do whatever our mind says. Identifying with the mind, thinking, oh, whatever, if I satisfy my mind, I will be satisfied. Not easy to say, but difficult to do, but we have to do that. Just like our mind wants to sleep in the morning. Hey, wake up. By our intelligence, we say that. Otherwise, एक बंदा बता दो कि सुबह मन करता है उठने का. Raise your hands. Never ever. Mind will never want to say, Mangala Arati. Never was. Only when you wake up, then mind becomes fresh. Okay, now we'll chant Hare Krishna like that. So like this. So don't identify with the mind. It is very dangerous. Mind will say so many things. Just like my Guru Maharaj was saying, we have a full plate of, obviously it's prasadam, but food or something. And the tongue through the tongue, the mind is speaking. The stomach is saying, no, I am full, I can't take anything else. And the mind is saying, don't preach me philosophy. I know more shlokas than you. What are you teaching me? This is how mind works. Also, the trick of mind is, enjoy sense gratification. You are a devotee, nothing will happen to you. And then when we have enjoyed sense gratification, and then when we chant Hare Krishna, suddenly something comes, the thought comes in the mind. So please hear, my dear devotees, we are permanent and we have to remain fixed in our services despite the changes of the body and mind. It will come and go. There is a difference between matter and spirit. By nature, the body is ever changing and the soul is eternal. This conclusion is established by all classes of seers of the truth, both impersonalist and personalist. Very interesting. The impersonalists are not fighting with the Vaishnavas on the point of Atma. They also accept that we are Atma, and we also accept that we are Atma. But the difference is who is God and what is my relationship with God. They say you are God and you can become God. But we say no, we are gods. God, comma, apostrophe S. We are gods. God समझ रहे हैं ना? भगवान के हैं. We belong to God. And our eternal situation is that we are eternal servant of Krishna. Now it's interesting. They just remove the apostrophe. They say we are gods and we say we are gods. But a small change of apostrophe changes everything. Are you able to understand? वो कह रहे हैं हम आप सब भगवान हैं. Gods, Gods, without any apostrophe. And we say, as per Krishna's instruction, मैं वांशो जीवलोके जीवभूता सनातना, we are God, apostrophe S. It's a small sign and it can change the whole philosophy. Is it not? I don't know. I've never spoken this. I never heard this also from anywhere. Just Krishna inspires like that. भगवान के हैं. It's not. I give another example. One impersonalist was saying, Soham. Actually, there is one. I met a person whose guru gave him this mantra. Soham. I am that. I am that. So one devotee came. I said, he added da before that. Da soham. I am servant. I am servant. So then the impersonalist was also very intelligent. Then he added S before that. Sada soham. I am always that. I am always God. Then devotee was more intelligent. He added another da before it. Da soham. I am a servant of the servant. Like this. The devotees are always more intelligent than the impersonalists. So it makes a whole big difference. You will study in 15th chapter. Anybody who accepts Krishna is God, I am his eternal servant, I must render bhakti, he cannot fail. Krita kritascha bharata, Krishna himself says, he cannot fail. But some time will happen, jitna sadhana karna karega, lekin his sadhana is infallible because the Lord himself will help the devotee who is with the proper understanding worshipping Krishna. This is one of the most inspiring things from Bhagavad Gita, 15th chapter, last slokas. Krita kritascha bharata. If a person understands this shastra, that living entity is eternal, fragmental parcel of Krishna, eternal servant of Krishna, and Krishna is my eternal master. If with this understanding we are serving Krishna, we cannot fail. It's impossible. But if a person thinks that Krishna is a human being, he will fail. Moghasha mogha karmana. He cannot pass. वो कभी pass होने वाले नहीं और हम लोग कभी fail होने वाले नहीं. This is how philosophy is powerful. It's not philosophy, this is truth. Okay? In the Vishnu Purana, it is stated that Vishnu and his abodes all have self-illuminated spiritual existence. Jyotimshi Vishnu Bhuvanani Vishnu. See, it's all mentioned here. The shloka which we quoted there. The word existent and non-existent refer only to spirit and matter. That is the version of all seers of truth. So you see, when Prabhupada is saying refer only to spirit and matter, means he's already excluding that theory of Satkaryavad told by the impersonalists. That means in this verse, Satah only refers to spirit and Asatah only refers to matter. Do not give any other interpretation besides this. That's what Srila Prabhupada is telling. Are you able to understand now? And that is a version of all seers of truth. That means who can see the truth, they see the truth like this. Satah refers to soul, Asatah refers to matter, body. This is the beginning of the instruction by the Lord to the living entities who are bewildered by the influence of ignorance. This also we have studied. Unless the living entity disidentifies himself with the body, he cannot begin to worship Krishna properly. Removal of ignorance involves the re-establishment of the eternal relationship between the worshipper and the worshipable, and the consequent understanding of the difference between the part and parcel living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Have we also not studied in the Tika commentary? The Lord has made a difference in text number 12, Nate Vahav Natu Nasam, so that the living entity will understand, oh, I'm supposed to be subservient to Krishna, I must worship Krishna. But if I'm thinking I am Krishna, then I'll not worship Krishna. So this is why the Lord has established this point in the previous shlokas. One can understand the nature of the Supreme by thorough study of oneself. The difference between oneself and the Supreme being understood as the relationship between the part and the whole. This also we have studied. That's just like a lamp. if I understand myself, then I also understand the Lord, and then I begin to understand the Lord. But if I can't understand myself only, how will I be able to understand Krishna? Then I will think Krishna also is like a human being, which most, how to say, foolish people think. Okay. Part and whole, you understand? Whole is the body, and my finger is a part of the body. Srila Prabhupada explains it very beautifully, very, very beautifully. Just like if there is some disease in a little part of our finger, we are ready to spend thousands of rupees to fix it, is it not?
Yes.
But if the finger is cut, who cares about the finger? Make sense? So if the living entity, and also the finger is very useful when it is attached to the body, so that if the living entity is serving Krishna, it is very powerful, is very useful. But if he detaches himself from Krishna, he is as useless as a detached finger lying on the ground. See, all of us are normal conditioned souls, is it not? But as soon as if we take up the path of bhakti, we are very important. We are as dear to Krishna as Brahmaji. Prabhuji, ज़्यादा बोल रहे हो आप, कम बोलिए आप. You speak too much. Speak less. But these are not my words. Srila Prabhupada's words in his purports. That's why I read Prabhupada's purports. So nice. Just like the Brahmaji is important in giving chance to the living entities by giving them bodies by which they can execute devotional service. Anybody, any living entity who helps others to execute Krishna consciousness, he is as confidential, as dear to the Lord as any other confidential servitors. Can you imagine the potency of devotional service? Normal rotting conditioned souls, and we are able to do the best service to the Supreme Lord is unlimited. I'm not Atishakti to nahi keh rahe na. Simply by accepting and distributing this knowledge. एक हिंदी में बात कहना चाहता हूं, सुना होगा, हम ना सोचे हमें क्या मिला है, हम ये सोचे दिया क्या है हमने. We should not think what we have received, we should think what we have given. This one. But इसमें मैं और बनाना चाहता हूं, हम ये सोचे हमें क्या मिला है और हम ये सोचे कि दिया क्या है हमने. We must reflect what knowledge we have got and how much have we distributed that knowledge. Both the statements are good. We should not think what material things I'm getting or not getting. We should think how we can serve Krishna. But we should also think what spiritual knowledge we have got and how much we should be eager to distribute this knowledge. If you understand this spiritual knowledge, you will be amazed by it. Why will you not spread it? Anybody will not spread it, provided he understands it. In the Vedanta Sutras as well as in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Supreme has been accepted as the origin of all emanations. It's very easy. Janmad Asyahata, the Supreme Lord is the creator. Such emanations are experienced by superior and inferior natural sequences. Very simple to understand. Superior means the living entity, which are also emanating from the Supreme Lord, and inferior means the material energy. The living entities belong to the superior nature as it will be revealed in the 7th chapter. Apare mitastanyam prakritim vidhi me param jiva bhuta mahabaho yedam dharite jagat. Apart from this or transcendent to this matter, earth, water, fire, ether is my energy called living entity, which is enjoying the resources of the material nature. Although there is no difference between the energy and the energetic, Shakti Mator Abheda, the energetic is accepted as the supreme and the energy or nature is accepted as the subordinate. All those things are very clear to you. You cannot distinguish where sunlight ends and sun starts. Not really. You cannot separate the sunlights from sun. Can you separate? No. You cannot separate heat from sun. But can you say heat is sun? Can you say sun is heat? You can say sun is heat because the representation of sun is felt as heat. But you cannot say heat is sun. But you also cannot separate the heat from sun. So this is actually an impossible task that the living entity can break off its relationship with Krishna. Is still that impossible, just like you cannot separate sunlight from sun, is still that impossible thing is executed or is made possible by the inconceivable potency of the Lord called Maya Shakti, because the living entity wants to enjoy. So just imagine the Lord has done something impossible because I wanted to revolt against him. How much the Lord will help you if you want to serve Krishna? Think about it. And you will realize it in your Krishna consciousness itself. I'm just remembering, Risha Mataji sent me a message, I think, I don't know, 3 months back. Prabhuji, is there some association in ISKCON Noida or something? Is it not? And now there is too much association. Is it not? 6.5 hours of association every day. She wanted once in a week association. Now she's troubled by so much association. Too much association. Is it not? So be very careful what you desire. Be careful. You should desire Krishna. Okay. Here we are. Also, one more example. Juhi Mataji wanted to teach kids. Now you have so many kids, is it not? And I'm also thinking to maybe give an international audience also in Indonesia, where you can speak in English, the first class, and then they can translate into this. So something like this. So you should be very careful. Krishna is very eager for service and is never satisfied with service. If you do some service, he said, thank you very much, but can you do a little more? Like that. He'll always want you to serve more and more, because that will make us happy. Okay. The living entities, therefore, are always subordinate to the Supreme Lord, as in the case of the master and the servant, or the teacher and the taught. Easy to understand? The sunlight is dependent on the sun. I am dependent on the Supreme Lord. So in my natural position is to serve the Supreme Lord. It's very simple. He is our teacher and he is Jagat Guru. Krishna is Jagat Guru. Vande Krishna Jagat Guru. So he is the Guru. He is the spiritual master. And when we hear, we accept his words. Simple. And it's very easy to understand. Such clear knowledge is impossible to understand under the spell of ignorance, and to drive away such ignorance, the Lord teaches the Bhagavad Gita for the enlightenment of all living entities for all time. Very beautiful point. I'll finish with this. The Bhagavad Gita is not spoken to enlighten Arjuna. He's already enlightened soul. He's an eternal associate of the Lord. The Lord is speaking Bhagavad Gita with the idea in the mind that those who will hear in the future, they will be enlightened. Just like now I'm speaking this knowledge to you. Definitely I want to give some knowledge to you, all the devotees who are hearing live. But I'm also recording it so that those who will hear in the future will also get benefit. Does it make sense? Even I'm speaking to the devotees who are in front of me. But I'm simultaneously also want the devotee on the Zoom to hear also. So even a simple person like me can do one thing with different purposes. Then why will not Lord do that? Lord was knowing that, whose name I should take? Keshav Sakha Prabhu on 8th January 2021 from 8 to 9:15 will hear Bhagavad Gita. When he was speaking Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. He was so concerned about us, and he becomes so happy when we began to discuss and hear Bhagavad Gita. Any questions? I'll just take up some questions out there. We change clause when there is already another clause. That's a good. Yes, if you have some sanity, that's a good comment by Milind Prabhu that we change cloth if we have another cloth. Yes, that's a fact. आपने कहा आत्मा एक शरीर छोड़ता है तो और दूसरा शरीर पाता है तो यमराज जी कब उसे दंड देते हैं? It's a good question. I have spoken that the living entity takes body after giving up this body. So when does Yamaraj give him punishment? My dear devotee, try to understand. If a person is sinful, his next body is called Yatna Sharir, not human Sharir, in which he will suffer the sufferings of the hell. So a person who is sinful is preparing his suffering body, Yatna Sharir, by which he will nicely be accommodated in Yamraj. But after that he gets whatever body as per his karma. Have you not heard? So many times we'll hear in the glorification of Bhagavad Gita, this person was very sinful, then he went to Yamraj, that Yatna Sharir, he suffered, and then again took a body, and then somehow he heard Bhagavad Gita and went back to Vaikuntha. Mind means man? Yes, mind means man only. You have a question? Okay. So we shall stop here. Thank you, my dear devotees. Now I think you are realizing yourself as Atma because you have tolerated me for full 1 hour, 15 minutes. Thank Prabhuji, what to do? Somehow they were stuck. But thank you all very much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.